All right, Chargers fans, what is up? If I look tired, please excuse me. I just did a 12-hour shift at the good old United States Postal Service. I'm pulling an all-nighter. I made sure to come in and made sure to get you guys the latest in Chargers news and Chargers updates and your latest on Ernesto Vega's opinion on Bolt Up with Ernesto Vega. Thank you for watching. I've got some good insight for you today, some good perception. I've watched the game film over and over and over again, as I'm sure most of you have. But today, I'm going to be giving you my insights and my takes on preseason, on Bill Wick, on some of the highlights, some of the negatives, and hopefully you guys enjoy the show today. First thing I'm going to start off with is the latest news about Bob Wick. Now, for those of you that don't know about Bob Wick, he has been the equipment manager for the Chargers for the last 39 years or so. And a day or two ago, he was released from the Chargers. He was let go. He was, fired. And a lot of people want to know why. The Chargers did not release a statement. There was apparently no reason given as to why the man that went ahead and moved down to Los Angeles, moved down to Orange County, left his home in San Diego, why he was all of a sudden released with pretty much, no explanation. Now, as I talk to a lot of Charger fans. I've taken a lot of different opinions from people, and one of the things that I thought was a good perspective or a good perception or speculation, that it may have been. I also had some contemplations, some wonderings on why it was. Obviously, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know Bob Wick personally. I heard he's a great guy. I heard he's a very good guy, and more than likely he's a loyal guy. So that would explain if he decided to go ahead and be a leaker or a inside man for negative press comments about the Chargers. Now, whether or not he did that, I don't know. Could he have done that? I think it's possible to say, especially if there's been no other reason given. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly seeing, unconfirmed sources of certain things going on within the Chargers organization that somehow got out to the press or was made up and twisted and, made to seem like this was what was going on within the organization. Now, no one else has been released. Nobody else has been fired, really, that I can mention that is as of importance to the organization as Bob Wick is. So, once again, this is pure speculation. But I definitely think it could be possible. I'm not trying to smear Bob Wick. I'm not trying to pin this on him because it could be a complete Dean Spanos, just jerk move that makes no sense. That's possible, but obviously there's two sides to every story, and I'm not convinced that after 40 years of employment, whether or not you think that time has bearing on whether Dean Spanos makes decisions or not, I don't see how he could just go ahead and release him for no reason. There had to have been something. They must have not liked each other. They must have had issues in the past. Another thing that was brought up that could possibly be potentially a reason is, I don't know how many of you noticed, and I don't even like bringing it up because it's kind of embarrassing, but on week 1 of the preseason, it was pointed out that there were a lot of helmets that had the bolts on backwards. Now, whether or not that was done by the staff, whether or not that was done by him personally, whether or not that was done on purpose, period, no one really knows. But either way, if he's the equipment manager and he's the one in charge of those things, that would be something on my list as an equipment manager that I would definitely be making sure that all the lightning bolts on the helmets were facing forward and not backwards. So to me, that's a big, especially for game one, especially for the first preseason game, that it's either done on purpose, it was intentional, or it was a mess up on his part. And if it was intentional by the staff, it's still his fault, and it's still his responsibility to be making sure, you've been an equipment manager for 40 years, and all of a sudden that happens. All of a sudden you get to LA and that happens. Once again, it could be coincidence, might not be. Only speculating. Another thing that it could have been, but back to what I was saying about the leaking. Obviously, somebody has been telling news reporters and San Diego Tribune and Bolts from the Blue and Mighty 1090 and Scott Kaplan and Thomas Powell, for those of you who know Thomas. Somebody's been giving them information, whether or not it's confirmed. I don't remember the Chargers giving out 21,000 fan attendance. Maybe it's public record, but I feel like there's just a lot of slandering, a lot of unconfirmed facts that have been put out there that haven't been confirmed by ESPN, by NFL.com, by the league, by anybody other than most of the time San Diego articles or bloggers or what have you. So there has to be some reason, or there's not. You be the judge. I'm going to say that there's possibly a reason, just to give the benefit of the doubt. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about today, we'll move on from Bob Wick. I wanted to talk about I wanted to talk about the new HOAC Performance Center. I don't know how many of you knew this, but the Chargers have been developing and refurbishing a local center for the Chargers to have practices at. Jack Hammett, I believe, was only a temporary, especially considering you had to get dressed and all that across the street and then come to the field. Now they have a full-fledged, brand new, fully functional performance center for them to practice, for them to recover, their locker room, weight room, everything is brand new. Now, I don't know how it was at Chargers Park, but from what I understand, it was not top of the line. It had been the same Chargers Park that it had been for a long time, and now, for the first time in a very long time, the players have been rewarded with premium equipment, premium maintenance, premium recovery stations, premium lockers, premium field. So, in my opinion, things have gotten a lot better since we came to Los Angeles. And some might say that, Dean Spanos should have done something to that nature in San Diego, but why would you do that if you're assuming that San Diego is not going to give you a facility? So I think they made the right move. The players love it, I heard. The coaches love it, I heard. I heard that it's brought them a little more confidence. And I know in the past, recovery and injuries obviously have been a huge issue for our team. And why it is a huge issue for our team only, I don't know. Could it be the fact that we had outdated buildings with outdated equipment, or just not up to the level that the rest of the NFL is at? That's a possibility. I would say that that's definitely could be a factor as far as injuries are concerned. I heard that now they have a way better recovery and body repair stations with ice baths, hot tubs. Apparently they didn't have that at the prior facility. So now players are going to be able to practice, recover, workout, recover. So they're going to be trainers, nutritionists. All these guys are going to be able to get a lot more recovery time in, and that's huge when you're talking about injuries. Now, hopefully, not only the strength and conditioning coach change, but the new facilities will help with the injuries this year. And apparently Keenan Allen is looking healthy. Apparently Jason Verrett will be ready to make a comeback, and they're talking about him, looking better than he has. So I'm excited. I'm excited about this center, the HOAG Performance Center, and I know the players are. And to me, that's good news, and we need more of that good news. Now, for what all of you guys have been waiting for, preseason talk. Now, once again, please do not look too much into preseason, win or lose, good or bad. It's preseason. It needs to be taken with a grain of salt. Later on, I'm going to be having callers coming in. Call 866-831-5737 if you want to call and let me ask you some questions and hear your takes on what you think, about Chargers news and what have you in the show. But back to the preseason. Take it with a grain of salt. Don't look too much into it either way. There's a reason it's preseason. Nobody's putting out everything. Nobody, you're trying to see what you can do with the players that you have, with the most standard plays that you have, and basically try to see which guys are going to be able to just do what their job is, down to the fundamentals and the basics. That's what preseason is for. We're not showing our plays. We're not showing what we have. We're not going to play our starters. Thankfully, today, it's finally preseason week 3, Saturday, today, Rams versus Chargers, battle for LA. So that'll be a little bit more interesting, and I would say it's a more of a spiritual game for us that we need to win rather than needing to win because, it matters. So I'm excited to see that today. Also, Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. That, to me, is going to be exciting. Conor McGregor, by the way, sorry to my producer, but Conor's going to light him up. But anyways, preseason week 2. We played the Saints. We ended the game, I believe, 13-7. And a lot of people were freaking out. A lot of people were worried. A lot of people were, down in the dumps because of it. And, as much as there were negatives, there were positives. When you're watching preseason and you're watching games, period, a lot of things you have to look past just the overall, couple seconds per play that goes on. You have to look at every part of the field. You have to look at what's going on in every stage. There's reasons for certain things that most people don't see unless you really pay attention to them. So I saw a lot of good things. I saw a lot of bad things. Definitely mostly bad in the first 2 games, but that's what happens in preseason. That's what happens when you have a totally new coaching staff with a totally new offense, totally new defense. You're going to have these bumps, and it's better to have them now than later. But I'm going to talk about the negative things first because apparently some people think that all I do is talk about the positives. I do, but that's because I like that, and that's because that's my job as a fan, and that's my job as a host. I like to bring positivity. I like bringing uplifting viewpoints to fans. Obviously, people know the negatives for the most part. Obviously, most people can see what's wrong with the team on the overall spectrum, but in hindsight, you have to look at everything. So the negatives, obvious negatives. Offensive line looked atrocious. Now, granted, most of them were backups, but with the way that injuries are on the Chargers roster, you always need to have good second stringers. And for the most part, they were undisciplined. They were sporadic. They were not poised. They were not picking up, keeping their protections in check. But you can also blame the quarterback on that because he's the field general. He's the one who's supposed to keep those guys in line. He's the one who's supposed to keep the linemen in check and making sure they're doing their jobs. And that helps the linemen, and the linemen help him, the quarterback. But at the same time, even though the linemen had problems, you're going to have problems in games, especially when you got guys on the other side of the field that are going to be truck drivers in a couple weeks and need to make their mark and, you know, need to make it to where they are remembered and their names stick out when coaches start making cuts. So you're going to have that with the offensive linemen against defenses that are, once again, are trying to make the team. But I saw a couple good things. But once again, I'm going to go negative. I'm going to show you this video here of Chris Hairston. I believe it was the first play of the game. And I'll go ahead and wait for the video to come up, and then I'll give you my thoughts on this. Uh-oh, we're having technical difficulties, people. Please give me a moment, and if not, we'll go ahead and I'll just explain what happened. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna go ahead right now. The video is not uploading, so we're gonna go ahead and I'll just give you a visualization. First down, first play of the game. Okay, so the video is not working, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you a visual. Basically, what happened, it was first down. Oh, dirty.